you buy it and you die, it's poisonous. If it bites you and you die, it's venomous.
But I bought
Oh my.
you.
Oh, yes!
我没想到你 cringe。
It wasn't that what? She was. It wasn't that medicine was poisonous and venomous. It was the fact that she died of cringe. Oh, it was originally going to be Dice of Gay. Oh my god. But apparently that word is protected by YouTube. I should avoid saying that word. Even though I am also part of that protected community.
Work. He had to resort to something better, setting Mario on fire. Burning Mario actually has a...
Wait, shit, I need to put in my comment. Oh, look who I got. Not yet, I forgot. It's not Friday yet. The fuck, there's so many limited time events going on. I may as well. Man, I love 240 stamina. I can play the game anytime I want, and it's not even gonna matter. As long as I use up all of my stamina. As long as I play at least once a day, it's all Gucci. That's fantastic.
Fire. Burning Mario actually has a very useful component to it. It makes him do a little hop forward. This is actually enough to reach the platform from the pole.
DPS.
The only problem is finding a way to burn Mario at the top of the pole.
Okay,
Luckily, fire spares are there to save the day. These fire bars are made up of 15 individual flames, each taking up one object slot. When the fire comes out, all of these flames are loaded, then unloaded as they stop burning. If Mario's holding a vacant object slot when the flames come out, he can end up holding a flame clone. To release it, however, Panenkoek couldn't use transport
character I
warning
get
because
tomorrow
nothing
is
can push fire, so he had to use the old knockback strategy by positioning a Goomba at the right spot. Finally, he also had to
Wanted the
use
sound.
so that he could bounce off the elevator to the spot so that the time
I
for the
sense a
strategy would work.
weakness.
After falling down to get the red point, he
Appear
dismounted the
before
pole by getting burned and
Swift
managed to
and
get back up without a press. This meant the only ingress left in this level was the one required to get off the pole the first time around. The next ingress to be saved wasn't tied to this star in particular, was the ingress required to enter Cavern of the Metal Cat. This one was simple, quite precise to pull off. After getting Dory in the right spot, Mario can reach the platform with a run-up and a dive recovery. Coincidentally, the very next day, Panenkoek found another improvement, again in castle movement. This time, it was pounding the pillars to lower the water and access the Vanish Cap course. After catching Mips, Panen carried it all the way to the pillars. Here, he got off the pillar holding Mips, but ground pounded. This instantly releases Mips, which in turn pushes Mario back onto the pillar. Rinse and repeat for the other pillar, and 2 more E-presses have been saved.
I don't like that pretty much all of the farming is here though. First of all, the fact that you gotta wait for the button confirm to frickin' happen is kinda annoying. That's such a big waste of time, and they really should make that not the case.
Which has a tiny slippery slope on top of it. Immediately after sliding off, it flips back in at ground pounds, having just enough height to touch the star. But
Also the fact that all of the farming,
well,
I mean there are still the
not complicated
echoes,
enough to make a fascinating 2-hour documentary about
but the good game design part with the ley lines is that it is
the railing's cross section
a thing that encourages you to explore and
the
move around
and the slippery slope
while
on top.
still doing
Now,
your
all
daily
hitboxes have
gacha
multiple
bullshittery.
energy properties. They extend laterally by 50 units on each side of the wall. In the case of a thin railing like this one, the hitboxes can stick out of the other side like this. Also,
Something
all
where
hitboxes only extend
during
from
your
the
daily
top
explorations
of
or
the
whatever,
wall.
potentially you
Because
could
the
come
inside
across
extends
those,
higher than the
and
outside
it's a seamless way to
While the stick side
integrate
ends up pushing on
spending your resin during your
this
exploration.
spot pattern. You can make this impressive.
It's not very good at doing that, but
All the patterns and simply repeat, switching to the upper
it's
side.
the thought that counts.
Another level that started around the start.
Not really though.
The red point star was already down to 2 weaknesses. One
Oh my god, the targeting for that fucking
Not
sucks.
to that would be to cut it down to a single trip to the maze that somehow gets all 8 red points at one go. And that's what Panen did. He managed to do it by activating the elevator, taking it back up, and with this precise dive recovered. But then, he found something bigger. The carpet trip to the top of the maze was essential, but the ingress needed to be very close to the
So,
figured if he could have just one small bounce, he could have the height to grab the sledge without a big press, and he solved it with the most advanced maneuvering strategy yet, Lakitu. He led Lakitu far away while he was still low, and he activated until the last moment. The activation works differently in unknown methods. When Mario is too far away, Lakitu is no longer rendered and updated, but it
yeah, I
remains
hate
in the
that.
same position until Mario gets near it again. Because Lakitu takes a while to rise up to Mario's height, Panen was able to get it to fly up into him just in time to get enough height to grab the ledge. As it turns out, the Lakitu wearer saved the final units in the Red Star, but it also saved one of the 4 A-presses for a big house in the sky, which also shares this carbon ride. And just like that, the total A-press count for all 120 stars was now under 1. But there was no time for celebration, or A-presses to save. In Dire Routes, the convoluted red point star,
You got a shield?
2.5, Panen found that he could activate the box's switch and drop from the pole cone into a box instead of jumping off. This one was actually more precise than it looks, again because Mario has almost 0 horizontal momentum when he drops off from a pole. Following the theme of improving upon all the incoming stars, Panen then came up with an insane idea to improve the downtown stars of Wet Rag World. This was perhaps the most creative and bizarre-looking strategy yet. Thanks to its 14-hour water-level manipulation epic, the Red Coin Star was already at 0 A-presses, but Quick Race through downtown still required 1 A-press to complete. That is until Panenkoek somehow thought of raising the water level so much for so long that it would reach a value too large for the game to handle. The water level is stored as a 16-bit signed integer. In other words, it can only be a whole number from negative 32,000 to positive 30,000. If it goes beyond 32,767, the water level quite literally overflows, so it wraps around to negative 32,000, essentially making the downtown area go from completely filled with water to completely dry instantly. And now the genius part.
Nice.
Because the water level bobs up and down, if the median is right around the overflow limit, the water level can switch back and forth between its
I did like a
maximum
5 times, so
overflowing and underflowing.
I'll do one
every
last
second.
5 times.
Now that's
I want to get.
the result was very weird. Mario swims for a bit, then starts
I'm
falling.
actually
Comes on the
gonna
water
get it on
again,
the 10th pull,
And
aren't
this
I?
double state is exactly what Panet needed to bypass the need
The
for an
4-star, I
aggressive
mean,
race
it's not a
to downtown.
guarantee that it's
Also, although time is very much a
fishing for
secondary concern,
4 stars
this
is
solution saved about 3 hours
not
for the
very
Red Star.
good idea.
After this string of improvements, Pan and Coit took a bit of a break until mid-June.
Fucking hell.
In the meantime, he worked on a project dear to him since his very beginning with this game, a video
Last
255-point limit. Over the years, Pan had made dozens of videos about glitches in other Mario sites.
bullshit.
This one was
Yeah,
special.
alright. I guess I'm not getting her in this
Before you
account.
could hear his voice.
Hey guys, it's me, Ancoa 2012, bringing you Dutch Pancakes since 2010.
This video didn't bring anything new for the A-Button challenge specifically, although it did show the lengths he was ready to go to just to get 1 extra point in TikTok clock. The response from the community was so positive that he decided that from this point on, glitch explanations and other science videos would become commentated. But because A-Button challenge videos were mostly demonstrations of a strategy, he felt little incentive to provide additional commentary other than the video description, but kept them in the same format as before. When Panin came back to the A-Button challenge, he found an A-Press save to go to Bowser in the Sky, which always required 2 A-Presses to get up the steps. After exiting either Rainbow Ride or Wing Mario over the Rainbow, it could be done in only one, with a slight kick bounce and a dive grind double jump kick up 3 steps at once. How does that skateboard trick sounding work? If you've played this game before, you've probably encountered this situation. This happens because ground movement
All I
and
don't
air
care.
movement are fundamentally different. On the ground, Mario is pretty much always moving in the direction that he's facing. In the air, Mario's movement is defined by his speed and facing angle as well, but it is also influenced by the direction of the control stick. If Mario is facing slightly away from the ledge, but the control stick is held towards the platform, he will move off of it while on the ground and back onto it once he's in the air. This results in Mario oscillating between being on and off the platform. It doesn't look like it here, but Mario is facing ever so slightly away from the platform. When he walks off, he enters a freefall state. In freefall, Mario can dive no matter his speed. He dives, but the joystick is held towards the step, so on the very next frame, he moves back onto the step. But now, because he's facing away, he slides back off the platform and freefall again. Each time Mario dives, it adds a flat 15 to his speed, up to a maximum of 48, which is 50% more than running speed. So with 4 consecutive dives, he gets his speed up to 48. Then he enters freefall for a frame and lands again. When Mario lands from a freefall, he can immediately double jump. Because the vertical speed of the jump is influenced by the horizontal speed, and because a double jump has a higher vertical speed than a single jump, 48 speed double jump kick gives him just enough height and distance to make it all the way up the stairs in a single A-press. Next, Pan and Coit looked at the 100-coin star in Hazy Maze Cave. It took 1 A-press to ground pound the switch for 2 points, but with clever swooper bounces, he could reach 100 different points with only that 1 A-press. That is until he found a way to ground pound the switch without having to jump. How could he do that? Again, the answer was swoopers. However, using swoopers to ground pound the blue switch meant that he no longer could use them to reach the navigating the toxic maze alcove. Because of that, he missed out on too many points to get 100 without an A-press. But thankfully, he could still combine it with the red coin star and get both of them for 1 A-press total instead of 1 for each. Next up was Chip Off Wong's block. If you remember, this star was left at 1 A-press last time because Pan and Coit couldn't find a way to get Mario to the star without jumping. Well, if he couldn't bring Mario to the star, why not bring this star to Mario? That's right, he could do it via cloning. Now, it's easy to say just clone the star, but it's actually not that simple. Up until this point, the only way Pan and Coit
Murder.
could the star was by carrying objects.
Allow me to help you guys with the police brutality.
2 levels in the game that have a loading zone. The issue is that without the loading zone, stars are always loaded, no matter how far Mario is from them, so they can't load into an object slot that he's currently holding. But here, because the star appears after the fight with King Wong, it could deal quickly into Mario's hands if he was holding the correct vacant object slot right at that moment. As far as holding a vacant object slot goes, it's possible to get a hold of an unloaded box by bringing it up to the top and having King Kong break the box while grabbing it at the same time. There's a major problem with keeping that unloaded box though. To end the fight, Mario needs to ground pound King Kong, which is incompatible with holding an object. It was time for new technology to step in. This strategy was actually once in the making. Back in 2013, Pan and Cork had discovered hands-free holding, a state in which Mario is no longer in the action of holding an object, but he still has a held object with him. It can be triggered by a few specific actions like diving into a downward slope or bonking into a ceiling. This is a volatile state with many restrictions. In short, Mario is trying to get rid of the object, so he has to be kept constantly busy to keep him from dropping. This is usually done by jumping repeatedly, but that's not an option here. I'll leave figuring out why as an exercise for the viewer. Instead, Panon had to get creative. First, he triggers the hands-free holding glitch by bonking into the bottom of King Kong, which at this moment acts as a ceiling. Then he punches repeatedly to avoid dropping the box until he's in the right position to ground pound King Kong while holding a specific vacant slot which the star loads into. And this finally brought down Chip-Off Wong's block to 0 A press. Around the same time, Pan and Cork also posted a video about trying to clone planes. While he tried very hard to make it happen, he just couldn't get it to work.
It doesn't really work. I just get stuck in some sort of limbo world.
This goes to show that even though so many breakthroughs were made in that area, a lot of the research still ended up in a dead end with nothing useful gained. Also, Pan started posting some lower effort videos for testing ideas and documenting strategies over on a secondary channel, aptly named Pan Chaos 2012. I'm sure that's not going to be confusing. July 2014. It had been a good 2 weeks since Wong's Fortress, so it was time for more breakthroughs. The ascent up the rotating red coin platforms in Tic-Tac Clock, which was done in 0 A presses before, was now found to be possible in 0 A presses, but this time while holding an unloaded bubble. Pan and Cork found that by entering the clock on the random setting and by manipulating the RNG, he was able to get all the way up these platforms safely while holding an unloaded object. This let him clone a Bob-omb up here. The old strategy for a roll into the cage was a side-flip wall kick from down here to get up in 2 A presses. But with a Bob-omb and a single A press, Panon was able to use the loaded Bob-omb glitch to get up the cogs without using A again. The strategy involves hands-free holding, triggered here by being pushed off the platform while belly sliding and holding the Bob-omb, and a lot of ground pounding, which during its animation temporarily disables collision checks with floors and most of its checks against walls. This is usually fine when Mario isn't pushed around during the ground pound, but here it allows him to clip inside the cogs and pop up on top of them when the ground pound animation is over. This route involves some seriously crazy movement, because Mario can't hold on to the Bob-omb for more than a few frames at once. Thanks to the Bob-omb having 4 different loaded sizes, he could grab it at slightly different intervals and have it be smaller if he wanted to position Mario, and larger if he wanted a stronger push to cross large gaps. This allowed him to get all the way to the star and save an A press, but he still needed one more to jump into the star itself. Did he? 5 days after posting this video, it was already updated. It turns out that the Bob-omb can still be useful even here. In its most loaded state, it displaces Mario by so much that it's possible to clip outside of the cage and with a ground pound onto this ramp. From there, he was able to clip back in, but high enough to get the star without jumping.
You can do that?
But this new find was bigger than that. Reaching this ramp had only been done in 2 A presses before. Therefore, this new Bob-omb strategy
The solution here is very obvious.
More Tic-Tac Clock stars. The next new technical development was for Metalhead Mario Can Move. 3 months prior, the Scuttle Bug had been used to save an A press and bring it down to 2. Well, it was time for that little bug to put in more work and take up the rest of the A presses. The first step was to make the Scuttle Bug jump out of the pit. But then, Mario goes back out. As Mario leaves the room, Scuttlebug is deactivated, not unloaded. Again, this means that it remains where it is, but it's no longer being updated or drawn. When Mario goes near it again, it will reappear in exactly the same spot. This will be useful later. The main development
where the coordinates
is found by Plush. It's similar to Shell Hyperspeed. When pressing CL while facing slightly downwards on a steep slope, Mario's
apparently
trying
just
to come to
somewhere
a stop,
around
but the
here.
downward slope accelerates him straight ahead instead. Again, because the slope is so steep, his de facto speed is a small fraction of his real speed. Now when Mario enters water, he loses all of that speed. Except he actually doesn't. Horizontal speed in Super Mario 64 is handled in two different ways, the regular speed and the sliding speed. The regular speed is a single value that is applied to Mario's current facing angle to move him. It's used in most scenarios, running, jumping, falling, taking damage, and many. The sliding speed is fundamentally
Are you two okay?
with an X and a Z component. Resulting direction isn't necessarily Mario's facing angle. As its name suggests, the sliding speed is used while Mario is sliding, no matter where or how. Even though only one type of speed is used at a time, in most circumstances, the unused speed is always updated to reflect the one that's being used. When Mario is not sliding, the sliding speed vector is updated to reflect Mario's regular speed angle. He is sliding. Regular speed is updated to reflect the amplitude of the sliding speed vector. But there are situations where the regular speed is updated while the sliding speed isn't. As it turns out, swimming is one of them. While Mario is moving down the slope, his sliding speed increases and his normal speed follows. When he falls in the water, his normal speed drops back to 0, but his sliding speed doesn't update to match it, so it stays high. Now he can go back on the slope and he starts sliding, which loses his sliding speed.
This move.
That speed is still high from the previous slide, and it goes even higher.
Thank you for
this
sparring
double
with me.
sliding speed goes all the way up to 496. At this point, Mario has so much speed that he can bypass the entire wall hitbox without even fighting. That threshold is 400 speed in most cases. Now, all he needs to do is show up and use it to instantly start sliding on the water, as well as to gain some precious height. And this is where the scuttle bug comes into play. As soon as it's reactivated, Mario goes butt sliding onto it with so much speed that one single bounce gets him all the way across to the star. And that is how Metalhead Mario can move was dropped to 0 A presses. While all of this was happening, another level was being on, the eternal Bowser in the Sky. It had been left at 6 A presses back in April, but Patton had been slowly chipping away at it
Wow, you really
for 6
solved
weeks
it.
from late June to August 3rd. This is everything he accomplished in that
Wait, I
period.
don't think it's something we're
First,
allowed
one
to
A press
see.
was saved using
I
black
can't.
magic.
We should turn around.
What's going on here is actually not new.
Come on.
In his first
just go
run
ahead
of the
and see
challenge,
what's written
Patton had
inside.
already abused this mechanic to save an A press in a higher elevator, perhaps without even realizing it. But how does that work? Simply because this thing's stupid.
I see.
Have you ever run into
The
weird
grand
wonkiness on one of
libraries
these
in
elevators before?
Huanglong are renowned
Have you ever
for the
bumped
grand
into nothingness
libraries
or
are
been squished
vital
out?
for Huanglong's data
Here's why.
security. Kind of like
The
a
axle
big
rotates
piggy
around
bank
the
inside.
center,
Yes.
but its hitbox is
You'll
incorrectly
find,
anchored.
Rover,
It dips
if
instead.
you need to
And
visit the
that's the
grand
reason
library
behind all
in
of this weird
Dangerous,
behavior,
there
including
is a
both of the
strong
Z-Press saving.
second. You must be
The
so you're
second
super
save
important
came
to
in the middle
Ginger.
of the level.
Wow.
This
I
red
think we
point always
stumbled upon
required
a
an
real
A-press to
big
grab.
shot.
Already,
We didn't even.
Mario could also collect it by falling from above. Unfortunately,
What's the
because getting
matter,
off the
Rover?
slope also requires an
Something
A-press,
wrong
it
with
wasn't
it. It's
any better.
Jinjo's political center.
But Pat and
And
Koic
it's all
figured
City
out
Hall
using
was
the
built when
clones
Jinjo
would be
was
possible to
established.
smelt
Why do
the
you
bone
ask,
out
Rover?
to A. Because the cloning had to be done here, just past the book,
See?
it had
What
to
did I
use
say?
A once to dismount it
Covert
the
ops.
first time. But then he could clone
Come on,
the
Yang
struck down
Yang.
to the red
It's
point,
just a
climb back up
one-on-one
using
meeting with.
the
Relax,
clones to smelt the
relax.
bone without
I
using
guess
it
you're
again.
right.
After
We'll
some
be
testing,
waiting for you.
he realized that because Mario's momentum is so low when dropping off, his best course of action was to take damage instead. Managed to do it, but he wanted Mario to damage him while pushing the clone under him so that Mario could bounce on him during the damage knockback. That worked, and so Bowser in the Sky was down to only 4 A-presses, 2 at the start, 1 to get this red point, 1 to get off the goal the first time around. That also would have passed thanks to a brand new development, Goomba Engineering, the Goomba Ladder. This is essentially like a bridge, except this time the bounces are mostly vertical instead. This let him bypass the pole entirely, at the cost of many, many falls. Long story short, this process took him 46 Goomba clones. One interesting detail to consider is how
The only thing missing is I still technically don't have a freaking
making objects not efficient, something that I've avoided talking about in detail.
anything
because
higher
one
than a
is usually
2-star.
anything involving cloning. One doesn't need to
Echo.
know all of its intricacies in detail to
How
appreciate the
annoying.
incredible work that goes behind these cloning strategies. Here, though, I wanted to give a glimpse of the kind of effort that sometimes has to be made just to start cloning objects. The main sources for all of these clones are this Bob-Omb and that Goomba trio. If you remember, a flat surface like this is extremely difficult to clone with a Bob-Omb. The only real option Pat and Koic had was to hold it off the edge as it blew up. Grabbing it this way will give Mario the radiant object slot number 9 because of all the smoke particles and the explosion happening at the same time. Now because a Goomba trio is made up of 3 Goombas, they will load into the first 3 vacant slots. This is a problem. To get a Goomba to show up in Mario's hands, Panon needs to lower that vacant object number from 9 to between 1 and 3, which means he has to load at least 9 temporary objects that would unload in a different order, giving him a new vacant slot number. The best he could do by kicking up dust was only up to 8 dust particles, so he paired it with collecting the Bob-omb's coin to add sparkles to the object count. So a temporary particle loaded into Mario's hands and then unloaded, which lowered his vacant slot number enough that he was able to clone a Goomba from there. But because the coin from a Bob-omb is a one-time thing, this method could not be reused. So he used that first Goomba clone to get easier future cloning. Bob-ombs immediately explode when they come in contact with other Bob-ombs, Goombas, or other enemies. With the Goomba clone just off the edge like this, when the Bob-omb runs off the edge, it falls on the Goomba and instantly explodes. Mario's then able to grab an unloaded Bob-omb in vacant slot 2 instead of 9. From there, cloning more Goombas is easy. Alright, that was pretty crazy, but there was one more major problem. Panon needed 46 clones to get past the pool here, 4 more clones to get the red coin here, 2 to get the final red coin, and 61 more clones to bounce into the pipe. The game was never going to handle this many Goomba clones at once. The solution for that was twofold. First, the disjointed axle hitbox let him skip one step of the upper Goomba bridge, and second, he found that he could bring a Bob-omb to the pipe and skip the last few steps of the Goomba bridge. This brought down the total amount of Goombas from 113 to 63. Nonetheless, because most of these Goombas were close together over there, the additional clones Panon needed to get this red coin would invariably crash the game. How he solved that seems absolutely insane, because it is absolutely insane. He got up the entire course without getting any red coins after the Bowser fight, and stuff at all. Basically, that gives Mario enough speed in a short enough time that he has time to catch up to Chucky and get caught before it lands, similarly to what he had done in Wet Dry World before. And with that improvement, what was once a 13 press stage was now down to only 2, both at the very beginning. After this crazy adventure, Panon Koik's ideas dried up a bit. College had started again, and he stepped away from the A-Button Challenge for a while. But in the meantime, someone posted a very bold claim on the Castle Movement A-Press's video. I figured out how to go to Hazy Maze Cave without pressing the A button once. Naturally, Panon was skeptical.
As I
What are the
expected,
chances that some
that
random
must be
YouTube
the
commenter
entrance.
had genuinely found a way to improve upon one of the most basic A-presses in the entire challenge? After all,
Should
he'd
be
been
able to
getting
find a
dozens of
hidden
these
path
empty claims for
underwater.
well over a year now. Well, obviously, if I'm talking about it, we already know the answer.
This
And
must
Panon
be
Quick
one
would
of the
soon
missing
find out
ones.
as well.
Now,
The probability
how do I
is 0, because this is no random YouTube
Part of
commenter.
the score
This
holder
is
just
Tyler
lit up.
Keeney, the
As I
great mind
expected,
behind the
the
discovery
bell
of
just
parallel
raised out of the
universes.
water. So that's what it meant by having the bells guide my path. Huh. A new walkway has shown up.
This video is a
I
part
must have
4.
solved
Make sure to
scenes I
watch
need
the
to look
previous
from the
parts
inside.
first. September 2014. The A-Button Challenge was starting to settle down. At 82 A-presses, Panon Quick and friends were in a bit of a dead end. No one had any leads on what could be improved. No one except Tyler Keeney. Showing up out of the blue one day, he annihilated every expectation and took the A-Button Challenge to the next level. While everybody was focused on a 120-star A-Button Challenge, Tyler Keeney actually had a different outlook. His primary goal was to make it possible to beat the game in 0 A-presses, no matter the star count. Now, Super Mario 64 is very famous for its 0-star speedrun, but there's a bit of a problem with it. Most of the
It
Star
seems
Tour
there
skips
are the
require
guards
speed
here.
generating techniques that make heavy use of the A button,
Interesting
like
how
backwards
I'm
long
not-
jumping or hyperspeed wall kicking. A 0-star or even a 16-star run would automatically incur at least a dozen A presses to skip the
This is
50
the
and 70-star
second solidus.
doors. So
I
the
should
only
bring it to
reasonable
the
method
Synfidi.
would be to find 70 different stars that could be collected at 0 A presses and beat all 3 Bowser stages without the A button. When he first looked at it, Tyler found that the lowest possible count was 9 A presses. Those included 2 A presses to beat Bowser in the Dark World, a half A press for board Bowser's sub in Dire Ducks, as well as 5 other stars, 1 in Bowser in the Fire Sea, 1 to reach Bowser in the Sky,
water level
2
just
within
dropped
Bowser in
again.
the Sky, and because only
There's another
65
2
stars were
drums,
attainable in
one
0 A
in the
presses,
east,
3
and another
additional
in
A
the
presses
west.
to
I
get
may
the
find more
required 70
sonodiscs
stars.
down there.
The half A press is important here because in the event that the A presses to reach 70
So
stars
this
and
is
to
the
beat
right
Bowser
way
in the
to
Dark
go.
World were all saved, there would no longer be a prior A press to reach off
enough
from.
information
So
to
from
work
this
out the
starting
puzzle.
point, Tyler made it his
This
mission
does
to
look
lower
like
that A
Miss
press count
Magistrate's
all the way down
game.
to 0. His first discovery in that direction was a huge breakthrough because it allowed him to go to Hazy Maze Cave in 0 A presses, unlocking a whole level that already had 3 stars at 0 A presses. Because Pan and Coed was busy with
The
college
drum on the
finals,
other
Tyler
side
took it
has
upon
one
himself
left.
to make a video about it.
Guess I'll go
The
check on
crucial
it before I
development is
leave,
the
just
Star
to be
Dance
safe.
clip, which is made possible thanks
The
to
music
Mario's
I just
ability to
heard,
grab onto ledges.
it must be the
During
sonodist.
most kinds of jumps or in free fall, Mario can grab onto a ledge that he doesn't quite have enough height to land on.
Here it
This
is.
allows him to reach a floor
Time
up
to
to
deal with the
180
guards.
feet higher than his own position,
Jinjo's
but
City
pretty
Hall is the
quick.
political hub.
A regular
While
dive
Grand
cover
Library
doesn't
has
allow Mario
retrieved the
to
third
grab onto
sonodist.
ledges, no matter how high,
Time to
because
head
that
back.
specific action type prevents Mario from grabbing the ledge. But when Mario collects a star, this unique falling action type called the Star Fall does allow him to grab a ledge.
Another
Normally,
platform.
during a ledge grab, Mario is technically on top of the ledge while his visual
Bells will
monitor
lead
is
my
off.
path.
This is the key mechanic that makes canon less possible.
I'll go work out the
In this case,
passageways.
because the Star Dance overrides the ledge grab animation, Mario instantly pops up onto the higher ledge and starts dancing. The Star Dance glitch was revolutionary in that it allowed Mario to reach a ledge as high as about 280 meters, up from the 158 that a simple dive and cover can achieve.
This feeling.
There was only one simple problem. It required a star. Not only
Must
that,
be
but a
this
star had a
is the
very
fourth
specific
missing
location. This was a major hurdle for two
Almost there.
reasons. First, no stars are by default located somewhere that they can be useful to reach a higher ledge. But most importantly,
So there's staircases.
Courses, collecting a
But
star
why would I bother when I can do all when I
But
could
there's
just
one
do all the
exception.
cool stuff I did
Besides
last
that,
time?
both of these key problems, 100 star. This star appears precisely 240
It's way faster,
above
too.
where the 100th point was collected, so its location.
But I guess I should
pretty much
showcase
anywhere
the
point
proper
can be collected
intended method.
But also, other than
For you to
some
move
guesses,
around in this
stars,
dungeon.
it's the only star that keeps Mario in the
Nice
level
note to
after
go.
collecting it. Therefore, with clever manipulation, the 100th point could be collected just beneath the high ledge,
This
and the
is the
starfall
last
action
one.
could make Mario grab the ledge and save any press.
Quite the
And
welcome for me.
this is the 100th point star. Would be able to stay in the level afterwards. This is the magic of the Star Dance technique. Tyler used it mental on 4 pillars. A Goomba knockback bounce from the stars, just enough to knock Mario up on the ring, which has a warp that takes him further up the
Administering
pyramid.
first aid.
This is now high enough to reach the mini-boss fight without using
Banish
K.
all vice.
A month later, still on his own, Alan Keeney discovered a massive beat that he beat the 207 dive recovery.
Swift and resolute.
Regular dive recovery can get Mario on platforms up to 150 feet higher, but this special trick gets him up to
I have the
207
last
feet
sonodisc
higher.
ready.
This is made
Time to go
possible
back to
because
the
of the
Synfidi.
wall and floor hitboxes. If you remember, I said before that wall hitboxes extend up to 30 units below the top of the wall. Quick side, if you need a refresher on earlier notions that I'm building onto, look out for a timestamp in the lower right corner of the screen. A dive recovery gives Mario 128 units of height, so on a platform that is up to 158 units higher, Mario can dive recover just above the wall hitbox and onto the platform. If the platform is any higher, the wall will prevent Mario from reaching the floor. The floor hitbox, however, extends 78 units under the floor. If Mario finds himself somewhere in this region, he'll snap up onto the floor. Theoretically, Mario could dive recover into the bottom of this region and snap up to the floor, gaining up to, but not including, 207 units of height. In practice, though, the platform is almost always surrounded by walls to prevent Mario from reaching this zone. But what if that wasn't always the case? This is the key discovery behind this new technique, misalignments.
There is the
Super Mario
potential that I missed the
tracks Mario's
chest.
position using 32-bit floating point numbers. So Mario's position on each axis can be virtually anything, including 8 million numbers just between 1 and 2 alone. A game physics calculation that checks the height of the floor Mario is on or above has a built-in shortcut. Instead of using the 32-bit floating point number for Mario's position, the programmers decided to convert it into a 16-bit integer. This lost some precision, sure, because any fraction would be rounded down to a whole number, but because 1 unit is such a small distance, a fraction of the unit would be completely insignificant. Well, it turns out that it's not that insignificant when the wall collision check does not make the same shortcut. This leads to a very specific, literal edge case scenario where Mario can be on the floor but beyond its bounding walls at the same time. This one-by-one
Now I should
there
have
is beyond
access
each
to
of
the
the wall
database.
hitboxes. If Mario ends up here, his position will be rounded down for floor calculation, putting him on the floor. So for all practical purposes, in the direction away from the origin, floors extend 1 unit further than their associated walls, leaving a tiny exposed square.
What's with all the enemies? Why did they make me fight
This
them?
means any
So
platform
this
which has a
is
corner
the
pointing away from the
Grand
origin and both
Library.
axes has a one-by-one misalignment that can be used to
Time for an
bypass the
unskippable
wall hitbox and
cutscene.
snap up onto the floor from 78 units below it instead of the usual 30. It seems rather small, but there actually are numerous instances where that makes all the difference. First, these platforms in Bowser in the Sky were entirely discovered the trick in the first place. As it turns out, all of
My
these
energy
guys
was
were just
reset.
out of reach with a regular
Appear
recovery
before me.
and are reachable using misalignments. All of them, except the last one, unfortunately. But he was undeterred. He was determined to keep Bowser in the Sky fully complete in 0%. Despite his already impressive track record, major discoveries in fun, nothing would really showcase Tyler Caden's creativity as he like the Chucky drop. From all the way down, Mario is just on the edge of Chucky's activation radius. When Chucky is deactivated, it stops moving and isn't independent. It is still loading. There's one crucial function that still works, turning towards Mario. Chucky has two main media modes, chasing and turning. Chasing charges forwards and the Mario's behind it. This is what the white light demarcates. Then it stops for about a second and a half and goes into turning. In turning mode, it turns until Mario is in the yellow cone and starts chasing again. If Mario quickly comes from behind you in front of Chucky, it can already see it. Chucky starts turning. In that case, it turns by about 5.5 degrees or until it faces Mario directly, where it starts chasing. This is important because of the geometry of the platform Chucky is on. Chucky has a built-in mechanism that prevents it from running off a ledge. Its next intended position is more than 50 units above the floor. That means it's about to fall off, so it will stop on the edge of the platform. This check is only made if Chucky is currently on the ground. If it's already airborne, this no longer matters. But how did Chucky be airborne and fall off in the first place? Because of slopes. Chucky has a constant gravity, 4 units between the square, the same as Mario. On any given frame, if after falling down by 4 units, Chucky is on or just below, then it's popped back up on the ground. So if Chucky moves on to 4 and 50 units lower than its height, it will become airborne. Once it's airborne, the 50 unit limit no longer applies, so it can now fall off from much higher. There's one last potential hurdle. Chucky can't just run around entire levels. It has a point called its home, but it can only willfully move by a certain distance from that home. But thankfully, the distance is strictly horizontal. By a stroke of fury, it happens to be just big enough to allow it to spread. Every piece of the puzzle can now fall into place. Mario forms a complex mating that's down at the bottom, on the edge of Chucky's activation radius. Makes Chucky turn to face it through, face back behind him to activate the stop theory. Time, which is actually known to have Chucky turn just a little bit counterclockwise. Keeps this and Chucky faces in this direction as much as possible. Then he activates Chucky by entering the radius and makes him run up against the edge onto the sloped ground.
But you're not very trustworthy. You have given 0
So, becomes airborne.
hints that you're trustworthy in the slightest.
So Mario falls
When literally everyone else has been so incredibly trustworthy.
back towards him. Yeah,
Come on, why can't I dodge it?
Oversight.
he's back behind him. He can stop before it falls off the roof altogether.
Am I dodging too early, too late?
Final ingress of Bowser in the Sky and finally save. It's impossible to understate how unlikely this strategy is. Every aspect of which is very worse. This wall allows Trachea to run up against it instead of getting stuck on the edge at precisely the right angle. Allow Trachea to reach all the way to the slope while Mario is down below. The slope is just steep enough as Trachea perfect placement at the edge of the activation matrix allows for activating deactivating on command. The perfect size of its home allows it to all the way to this point. It's even easier consider the talent is working with there's a little understanding of all the mechanics I just described. The fact that this A-Press team is possible at all is nothing short of a miracle. The fact that it was discovered over 7 years ago is still a survivor just can't make that story up. Again in October, and again on his own, Tyler Caney found yet another groundbreaking trick to meet precious height in specific scenarios, vertical speed conservation, or VSC for short. Mario's vertical speed is a variable that's almost entirely independent of its horizontal speed. This is supposed to be a major hurdle for the Ava challenge, and sometimes in certain circumstances when Mario lands on the ground.
This is going so much better because I didn't bring a team consisting of 2 fucking healers.
This means Mario was somehow able to land on the platform while he's moving up. Top of the floor, is up to its speed, potentially being never possible before. There are 2 reasons why this can't work. First, Mario can't really land on anything when he's moving up, and second, vertical speed is reset to 0 as soon as Mario starts moving. But what if I told you Mario doesn't need to move? The action of throwing a punch makes Mario inch forward a little bit, but it doesn't require moving to control the stick. It also doesn't reset the vertical speed. So if Mario lands with a non-zero vertical speed, then punches repeatedly until he falls off the platform he's on, he will conserve that speed. But this doesn't fix the problem that Mario needs to fall onto something, therefore have negative vertical speed in order to actually land on it. Well, it turns out this isn't strictly true. There are some cases where it's possible to
Now I
move
have
up
retrieved
onto
the
a
magistrate's
platform
message for me from the puzzle box.
For example, the platform that doesn't
But it
have
only points me to the
second
grand
magic carpet.
library. There's no
Also,
loading
the
time.
platform
Something
itself
is
is
still missing.
I've
I've solved the puzzle, the discs have been rotated,
So it
and the
isn't
2 symbols are now
possible to land on
glowing.
the platform with positive vertical speed, and there are some very
With this
specific
glowing light, the
cases
shadow
where
is
this
cast
could
on 2
actually
other symbols.
At the end of our
The black tortoise of the
finally
north,
had the time
north
to
to
back
the
to the
city
challenge.
line.
And with this
And the
revolutionary
time reads, the Shichen of
Stephen
Cho, and
recognized
the
Tyler
hours
Kane's
of the
potential
morning.
and invited him on the ABC group, but he also saw the potential of these 3 new key discoveries. The floodgates were officially open. It could start flowing again. First came the big house in the sky, where a diver covered with a magic carpet allowed Paddle to conserve its vertical speed. Then, by getting pushed off the carpet, Mario enters freefall but gains height like a diver cover. Being in freefall means that he can wedge grab, allowing him to get onto these blocks without an A-press. Sadly, the password is higher than the others, and 1 A-press was therefore still required. Next up was
It's
Big
been
Boost
2
Mountain, where
days.
this A-press was
We
proving
both made it
problematic
on
for
time.
the stars and required going up to the
Allow me
second
to
floor.
formally introduce
Again,
myself.
let's see what this
I
time
am
done using the
Jinshi.
stairs raising up to
It brings me
and
great
was
joy
able
to
to cut
see
this
you,
A-press
Rover.
out, sailing 4 at once. The red point star also required getting rid of that half A-press for
An
kicking onto
emergency
the
forced me to leave.
and was able
And I
to figure
guess
it out using a diver
the
cover
Sentinel
instead.
of Jinjo is
Then,
currently
Diver comes, he
absent.
found that these squirt boxes can be climbed on using misalignments. This allowed him
Correct.
to use this high
The
platform with
Sentinels
0
guide and guard
A-press without
humanity
a
as a
hope,
symbol of our
which again
civilization.
revolutionized 4 different stars. Lord Bowser's sub was now down to
When
0
the Legion's
A-presses.
Sentinel goes
Both
absent,
through the jet stream,
Chaos
like
is
the cats,
Jinjo's
were also
Sentinel
down to
Jue
0
is
A-presses
guessed.
because the
Our
special
thoughts are
caps could now
connected,
be obtained
to a
without
certain
jumping.
degree.
And finally,
I can
full
sense
jumping
his
for red
memories,
points could get rid of the
feelings,
initial
and
half A-press and
surroundings,
go down to a clean
though
2.
not very clearly.
In Bowser in the Dark World, 3 dancers, Tyler, Panon, and Plush, and 2 new techniques combined to save the remaining 2
The
A-presses.
Frexodus plans
Here,
to
Mario
advance
does a
another
dive recover
moment
into the
and
crystal,
cause
which is made up of
disasters
tiny walls in an
worldwide.
interesting
Professor Scar
arrangement.
had several
By entering
objectives
2
upon
wall hitboxes at
infiltrating
once,
Jinjo.
Mario gets pushed all the way to here.
To track you
Because the
down,
floor slopes
to
up,
test
this
your
is enough to
strengths,
land
and to
immediately
make a
after
list
the
of
dive
discovered
recover,
your
allowing
value.
him to preserve the
Likely
vertical
from one
speed
of
all the way
Jue's
to
props
here
that you
with
refuse to
repeated
join, the
punches.
Frexodus will
The
likely
A-press
want
to
to
enter the
eliminate
pipe
you,
was solved
so you
using a
don't get in their
misalignment.
way.
Specifically, this corner points outwards from the origin, so
I
Tyler
have a
Keeney was
plan
able
to
to dive
apprehend
recover
if
into
you
the
are willing to
misalignment
lend
and
us a
save the
hand.
final A-press on
I
this
will
stage.
ensure your
Now in
safety
Rainbow
during
Ride,
our
Panon Quick found
cooperation.
another multi-purpose A-press
Of
save.
course,
This time it was to reach the cruiser at the top of the stage. He used vertical speed conservation combined with a very precise complex lakitu word to get it to fly up precisely into that corner. The VSC was achieved by making this block start falling, then dive recovering and landing one frame later on this block. Mario doesn't dip low enough to start being affected by the walls of that block, making this maneuver possible. Then, one punch gets him off the platform with vertical speed, and the lakitu bounce gets him just high enough to grab his ledge. This brought Cruiser crossing the rainbow to 0 impressions, and somewhere over the rainbow down to 1 because of the cannon shot. With the 120 star A-press count down to 71, Pan and Koic and the ABC crew, including 3 more people, Kaze Emanuel of Rum Hacking fame, Ryan Stroback, and Pedro Victor, decided to make a prediction. How low would the A-press count be 6 months into the future on May 13th, 2015? Everyone made guesses roughly around 60. Tyler Kinney was the most optimistic of them all with 54, predicting that 17 A-presses would be cut down before 6 months had passed. Needless to say, every single one of these predictions would turn out way off base. Meanwhile, Tyler Kinney, who was more focused on 80%, tried to get rid of the A-press to enter Bowser in the Sky. He found that on the rainbow right side of the room, he was able to use misalignments to ascend some of the steps, but 2 of them were being difficult. This one, and the final step. The ramp on the top step complicated things a bit, but using a ground pound and some slight grinding, Tyler was able to make it up. The first step's problem is that it doesn't line up right for a misalignment to exist. Tyler could have used a slight kick bounce from Rainbow Right, but because he was concerned with any percent where Rainbow Right was not going to be entered, he had to find another method. He found the glitchy ledge grab. When Mario hits a wall, a check is made to see if he can grab the ledge. In short, the game checks for a wall hitbox at 2 points, 30 units above Mario's position, and 150 units above, which is about the size of Mario's body. If it finds a wall hitbox at 1 point but not the other, it will try to find a ledge to grab onto by looking for a floor hitbox from 160 units to 100 units above Mario's position. Because floor hitboxes are 78 units high, this means that Mario can theoretically grab a ledge up to 238 units above his position. But if there is a ledge that high, wouldn't there be a wall below that ledge that the wall check would detect? Yes, but not always. Here's why. Wall hitboxes are 50 units wide perpendicularly to the wall, but at the edge of the wall they don't necessarily extend perpendicularly. They actually extend along the closest axis, either X or Z. So if a wall isn't aligned exactly along one of the axes, its hitbox will have a slanted shape along its edges. In this corner, both walls extend along the X-axis, creating this shape. When Mario is in this zone, he's in the low wall hitbox, but not the high one. So the game detects a wall 30 units above Mario, but not 150 above him. Therefore, the floor check is true. Now, because Mario is still at him,
Sure, why not? What do you want to know?
Because the orientation, perpendicular line is angled towards the higher floor, so the floor check finds that one and Mario grabs the
You
higher
kidnapped Jue and revived the Threnodian, accelerating the next lament. This is proof enough that you are the enemy of Jinzhou and all humanity. Stop dreaming you can force Rover to join you. She is our honored guest, and I will not allow any harm to come her way.
How confident you sound. As the Threnodian's resurrection approaches, Jinzhou is barely holding on. How much longer do you think you can keep up this facade?
Thank you for your concern. We have crushed your schemes once, and we can do it again. I have one last question for you. Abducting Jue, stalking Rover, and setting up an ambush in Cheecher Village. You couldn't have accomplished that all on your own. Unless
I'm not the only overseer in Jinzhou, right?
Star wants the battle can expired. This seems obvious in hindsight, but it's actually extremely precise to the point where it hadn't been tried before and discarded.
You can try
The string pushes Mario up, but also up, so he has to stand on the exact center, give or take a tiny fraction of a Newton, in order to not miss the star. Plush was on a hot streak. He struck again, this time in Dire Docks. He found that the underwater shell's higher speed could be partially preserved with frame-perfect B-swimming. Normally, B-swimming has a speed cap of 7 units per frame, but with this method, it could hold a speed of 16 units per frame. This is enough to do chests in a current without being sucked into the whirlpool, so another half A-press was taken out of the game. The next improvement
Your
came a whole
all-seeing
month later,
sentinel
the
will
very end of
merely add in a touch
2014.
of Rover.
Planet Koic, not to
Care
be
for a
outdone, was
wager?
still busy concocting
I know
absurd
you've been
routes that no one
searching
else
for
could have even
answers about your
remotely considered,
past, and
this time
I've got
was one of
news
its
for
best.
you.
Swinging in the breeze at
Watch
0
out!
A presses down from 1. The key new glitch in this route was
You are
hands-free
one of
teleport.
us, the Black
Usually, when Mario is
Lambs,
holding an
and
object,
you
he
have been
cannot use
chosen
Mark.
to join
But
us,
when he's holding an
ushering
object
in
hands-free,
the new
he can.
world.
The result is that the original object
Once you
remains in
discover
limbo,
what
but
you
the held
really
object is
are,
discarded.
you will
This
come
means
to
the
us
original
with
object
no
cannot be retrieved from
hesitation.
limbo and is stuck there forever. But of course, there is one exception.
The Fraxidus
Bob-ombs.
awaits
After
your
a hands-free
arrival with
teleport for the
open
Bob-omb, Mario will
arms.
no longer be holding
And I look
anything, which gives
forward
him
to
back
that
his
day
wide range of
in
actions, but he'll
sincere
still have the original
anticipation.
Bob-omb hovering in front of him at all times, invisible but still tangible. He can recover that Bob-omb by grabbing it straight out of limbo. Now, what happens if that Bob-omb is also in a bloated state? Well, because it's larger than usual, it pushes Mario backwards, again by a varying amount depending on the exact frame it was grabbed on. And this is the reason behind the behavior that Planet Koic exploits in this star. Let's go through the route. First, he goes up to the cruiser using BSC and the Lucky 2 bounds, like in the other stars. Once there, he grabs a loaded Bob-omb hands-free by being pushed off the edge as he
Rover,
grabs it. Then
are
he
you
carefully
alright?
navigates to the top of the red coin maze while preserving the hands-free state. In order to reach the warp while hands-free holding a bloated Bob-omb, he needs it to be bloated enough to give him a large
I
push.
see.
But after taking the warp, the large
The
push
blossoms
becomes a
here are
bit
like me
cumbersome,
being
so he
closely. I
regrabs the
suggest
Bob-omb
keeping
and
an
uses
eye
this
out
thin
for the
ledge
black
to get
shorn.
hands-free
I'll do
holding
my best
again,
to find
this
Jue.
time with a smaller
Until
bloated
this is
Bob-omb.
my promise.
Back onto the maze, he now has a Bob-omb that gives him a slight backwards push.
Yes.
He makes his way to
Please.
here, where he lures the fly guy up and bounces onto it to twirl over to this platform. Then he pushes the Goomba up the slope using the hitbox of the invisible bloated Bob-omb in front of him. But because the Bob-omb pushes Mario backwards, he can't get enough forward momentum to climb the slippery slope.
Sandua,
But that's no problem for
Yes,
Planet
Madam
Koic.
Magistrate.
This is what he does
I will be
instead.
going on a temporary leave.
Understood. Should I continue protecting?
No need.
From there,
Both
he can
Chan
push the
Li and
Goomba
I-
all
Is
the way
Lady
to the
Chong-Li
star,
leaving for
rid
the
of the
capital?
Bob-omb, and use a damage knockback bounce to
Please
reach the
pardon
star
my
and save
intrusion.
Hades.
But she just
The year
Regarding
was
that
now
incident,
2015.
we tried to
Planet
warn her
Koic
if
went
she
back
runs
to
into
bull jumping
another
for
powerful enemy like Skull
The new
Sandua,
misalignment allowed him to
you can
reach the
place more
catwalks and
trust
using
in
the
us.
surrounding
Understood,
walls
my
performed a
lady.
hand-in-hand glitch.
No matter what happens,
This in
my
turn
sword
allowed him
is always
to
yours.
pull clone remotely by setting the hope in another level beforehand, namely Whomp's Fortress. With the preset hope, he was able to release a pull hump here in between these two poles and use it to navigate to and back from the red coin. Both poles are an exception to the one
Both the
interaction.
interrogation and my
Mario
imprinted
can
meeting
actually
with
reuse them as many times as he
Scar
wants
only
because the
needed the
interaction
two
with
of
the
you
is
as
she
absolutely
decrypted
nothing.
every
It's
message we
interaction
intended to
status as
convey.
opposed
Such
to enemy
intricate
plates.
puzzles.
This didn't
no
save an
detail is too
He
small.
improves the half
I'm sure
index
if everything goes
bringing the
according
star
to the
down from 2
prophecies
to
is so,
1.5 A presses,
what did
saving
our
1 A
captain
press
Jue
overall.
had predicted I will have to fight
Shortly
it one
after,
day.
he also revisited Big
A
House in
fight
the
that will
Sky,
shape
which left at
Jinzhou's
1 A press
future.
for
Well,
this
that is
box, too high for BSC,
Can't
and
say I
following
am.
properly for a misalignment.
I had some.
Where
Of
was
course, that
it
doesn't
when
mean it
you
was
last
impervious
said
to
It
planet
was
magic. He figured out that an
in
the
exploding
place where the
Bob-omb
first
pushed Mario
people of
through the
Jinzhou
wall, and
lived?
because the
I'll find
carpet
Jue.
inside, he would have
Our
ground to
enemies
stand on
could have
while
planned
inside
it
the
as a
walls.
trap.
I
And
understand.
because there are no inside walls, he could get
I
pushed
will
back
not
out
let
easily on
Would
the
you
other
let
side.
what you heard from
But he was
Scar?
facing a
No.
pretty peculiar problem.
He cannot ever
In
tell
short,
me
he
I
wanted
am
to
a
bring a Bob-omb
magistrate.
to
The
this place
prophecy
while also
speaks of a
having the carpet
decisive
be active.
incident. My job
This makes
remains
things a little
unchanged.
complicated because the
Is
carpet
that
ride
your
involves uses
final?
of
A single
BSC.
strand's
Those involve a
neglect
die
will smite.
recovery.
The safest
Diving with a
option
Bob-omb in
is for
limbo
me.
automatically
Very well.
causes Mario to grab the Bob-omb
Since
instead.
we are already
This meant he needed to
mid-game,
somehow
this
bring a
time,
Bob-omb here,
I
but
shall
also
be a
be able
pawn.
to perform
Remember,
BSC on the box
I
he
will
needed
always.
before.
Am I a player?
Also, because loading
Or a mere
Bob-ombs
pawn?
above reaching the cruiser, he had to
I
use
suppose
Lackey
there is no
there,
difference at
which
this
prevents
point.
the other Lackey mounts that's used
No
in this
matter
route.
what,
So now
I
he
will
had
do
to
what I
figure out a
must.
way to use 2 different Bob-ombs to clip inside those 2 different boxes on the same carpet ride. The solution he came up with was quite involved. First, he went up to the cruiser and cloned a Bob-omb which he dropped to break the cork box below. This simply frees up the space for later. Then he cloned another Bob-omb which he released in such a way that it would eventually fall down to the platform below, but only after a bit of walking around. Finally, he grabbed a third Bob-omb, loaded this time, and carried it hands-free to the warp. Meanwhile, the walking Bob-omb deactivates until Mario comes back. Now, something interesting happens with Bob-ombs after a hands-free teleport. When Mario does a hands-free teleport, Bob-omb actually doesn't follow him. It only does as soon as Mario enters its activation radius, at which point it remembers it needs to hover visibly in front of him so it snaps to his position. In this case, it happens that the warps are just a little bit further apart than the activation radius. So when Mario warps, Bob-omb stays on the red coin base, and Padded makes sure to stay out of its activation radius until he's ready to bring it back to Mario. Once that Bob-omb is positioned, he takes the carpet ride. This time, as he passes under the Bob-omb on the bridge, it reactivates and falls off below and can retrieve it. He uses that one to clip inside the box that the Lakitu bells used to clear. Once he reaches this point, he performs VSC just before entering this Bob-omb's activation range. He lets the wall push him off the platform since he can't punch 2 inches forward, and now he's ready to re-grab that Bob-omb from Limber, enter the final boss, and save the last impress of the star. After this madness, you'd think Padded would take a break from Rainbow Ride for a bit. Well, you'd be wrong. He tried to apply the same loaded Bob-omb hands-free teleport strategy to tricky triangles, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't quite reach the star. During that process, though, he did get the Fly Guy in a perfect
I'm
location.
finally right back to where I was on my other account.
Fly Guy manipulation. This is a bit of a complex one, so let me try and summarize it. Fly Guy has 3 states: flying around, chasing Mario, and going back to its home. Again, like for all enemies, Fly Guy's home is a